All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to unravel the incredible story of how Atari's computers went from a blinking cursor on a screen to a whole graphical world we could see and touch. It's a tale of two very different Ataris. So think about this for a second. Before you could just click on an icon, you had to actually type out commands. But even for that to work, the computer needed some kind of brain, a core piece of software just to understand you. And that brings us right to the heart of early computing, the operating system. You know, the best way to think about it is like this. A computer without an operating system, it's like a library with all the books just thrown in a giant pile. Nothing's organized, you can't find anything. The disk operating system, or DOS, was that essential librarian. It knew where everything was, and it's what brought the whole machine to life. Okay, so our story kicks off way back in 1979 with those legendary Atari 8-bit computers. Now, to handle their floppy disks, they needed their own special librarian, and that, of course, was Atari DOS. Now, DOS 1.0 was the start, but it was really DOS 2.0S that became the gold standard for the entire Atari 8-bit world, and it had this one killer feature, autorun.sys. This was a total game changer. For the very first time, you could just pop a disk in, flip the power on, and your game would just start. No more typing weird commands. It was simple, it was reliable, and everybody loved it because it just worked. And check this number out, because it really puts things in perspective. The standard disk back then held just 88 kilobytes. To give you an idea of how small that is, a single nice photo on your phone today is thousands of times bigger. That little emoji you just sent in a text message? Yeah, that's probably bigger than 88K. Every single byte was precious. But you know how it is. Technology never, ever stands still. Atari wanted to give people more storage, so they rolled out a new disk drive, the 1050, and a new operating system to go with it. Now, this should have been a huge step forward, but oh boy, did it end up being a massive headache for everyone. So here's the problem in a nutshell. To squeeze that extra space onto a disk, to go from 88 to 130 kilobytes, Atari decided to completely redesign how files were organized. They threw out the old system and created a brand new, totally incompatible one. And this is the heart of the fiasco. Because they changed the file system, Atari made it so that the new DOS 3 disks were completely unreadable on the millions of computers out there still using the universal standard DOS 2.0. All of a sudden, you couldn't share programs with your friends. Compatibility was just broken. The backlash was, well, you can imagine. It was immediate and it was brutal. The community, which was really the lifeblood of Atari, felt totally left behind. In their rush to push things forward, Atari basically alienated their most passionate fans. They had a full-blown rebellion on their hands. Facing this huge backlash, Atari, and you gotta give them credit for this, they listened. They changed course and put out DOS 2.5. And this was the perfect fix. It supported the new, bigger disks, but it also came with a tool so you could read those abandoned DOS 3 disks. It was basically their way of saying, oops, our bad, and it brought peace back to the Atari world. Okay, so while all this DOS drama was playing out, something much, much bigger was happening in the world of computing. A massive shift was coming. The entire era of typing commands was about to end, and a new, visual, and totally revolutionary way of doing things was about to begin. And Atari was about to take its biggest leap ever. I mean, for the whole lifespan of the Atari 8-bit computers, this was your entire world. A simple text menu on a blue screen. You'd type a letter, you'd hit enter, and you just hope you got what you wanted. It worked, sure, but it wasn't exactly what you'd call user-friendly. Until this changed absolutely everything. In 1985, the Atari ST hit the scene, and it brought with it the operating system, or just TOS. The blue screen was gone, and in its place, a graphical desktop. You had icons for your files, windows you could actually move around, and, for the first time, a mouse to just point and click. This, right here, was the future. So, how did this magic actually work? Well, it was all about layers. See, at the very bottom, you still had a powerful DOS called GEM-DOS doing all the file management. But sitting on top of that was the secret sauce, GEM, the Graphical Environment Manager, which Atari actually licensed from another company. GEM was the part that drew all the pretty windows, the icons, the menus. It created that whole desktop experience.
And what's cool is that TOS evolved, and it evolved fast. We saw these huge leaps forward, like in version 1.04, which everyone called Rainbow TOS. It added the crucial ability to read MS-DOS disks. Later versions cleaned up the look, added support for even bigger disks, and eventually, on the powerhouse Falcon computer, it got a slick 3D interface and could even handle multitasking.
TOS even had its own weird little personality. If the whole system crashed, you didn't get some cryptic error code, nope. You got a line of bomb icons right on the screen. And funnily enough, the number of bombs actually told you what kind of error it was. It became this famous, iconic thing among Atari users. But here's the thing. The official software that Atari put out, that's only half the story. Because whenever Atari's own operating systems weren't good enough or they were too slow, this passionate, brilliant community of programmers stepped up to build something better.
I mean, for the 8-bit computers, the stuff the community was making was just incredible. You had things like MIDOS, which added modern features like subdirectories and hard drive support way before that was standard. And then there was SpartaDOS, which was so powerful and felt so much like MS-DOS, it made the little Atari feel like a serious business machine. A lot of the time, these community projects were way more advanced than what Atari itself was selling.
And that legacy, that spirit, is still going strong right now today. The soul of the Atari ST's operating system is kept alive by a project called TOS. It's a totally free, open-source version that you can run on original Atari machines or on modern computers through emulators. It's just amazing, and it ensures this classic OS is never going to be forgotten. So in the end, this whole story is about way more than just software, isn't it? It's about a company taking big swings, making a huge mistake, sparking a graphical revolution, but most of all, it's about the incredible, unstoppable power of a user community, which kind of leaves you with one last question to think about. When a company drops the ball, is it really the passion of its users that becomes the most powerful operating system of all?